Sorry I haven't posted in a while. I've been watching Love Island USA. If you've been living under a rock, Love Island USA is a reality TV show where some of the hottest singles in America stay in an Airbnb in Fiji for a couple weeks and yell at each other in between twerk-offs. The object of the game is to pair up with one of your fellow islanders and hope to survive long enough for the chance to be voted as America's favorite couple. Now, typically islanders are completely cut off from the outside world for the majority of their time on Love Island, but this year the outside world has been creeping in a bit more than usual. Early on in the competition, a contestant named Yulissa was quietly removed from the villa when videos resurfaced online of her using the N-word multiple times during podcast recordings. Luckily for the producers of the show, she only really had a presence in the first episode of the season, given that they found out so early, so it was pretty easy for everybody to move on and forget about her. Can you imagine the relief that the intern who was supposed to check if any of the contestants were racist must have felt? Oh man, I am so in love with the cast that we put together this year. I cannot wait for America to fall in love with them. Hey kid, you made sure and went through and checked that none of the contestants are racist, right? What's up? Oh, yeah, for sure. Sir, you're gonna want to take a look at this. Oh my god, get her off the show then, dude. Look, kid, if anything else offensive comes out at all, you're never gonna work in this town again. Sir, a second slur has hit the villa. That's right. Just a few weeks later, another islander, Sierra Ortega, had old posts resurface in which she used a slur directed at people of Chinese descent. This time though, the production team had a much harder decision to make. See, Sierra had been on the show for over 20 hour-long episodes by this point, and she was part of the only closed-off couple in the villa with Nick Van Steenbergen. People were definitely going to notice her absence, but to the producers' credit, they stuck to their guns, and Sierra was quietly removed from the show, the same way that Yulissa was earlier in the season. But that is where, in my opinion at least, the similarities end. First, let me start by telling you the two things that I am absolutely not here to do under any circumstances. The first is to compare the badness of two words. The second is to tell Black and Asian folks how to feel. What I do want to talk about today is the difference in responses to these career jeopardizing reveals. I'll start with what I think is probably the most baffling way to go about something like this. Yulissa, whose last name I will not be mentioning and whose page I will not be linking to, seems hell-bent on clinging to the Love Island brand in order to salvage this shot at internet stardom. She gave your standard boilerplate apology, of course, saying that her saying the N-word was a long time ago and that she's a different person now. You know, the same kind of stuff we've heard 1,000 times before. She then stayed silent for about a week before dropping a lengthy critique of so-called cancel culture, stating that she's received multiple death threats all over a video from 2021. Look, I will never advocate for threatening people online, and I honestly can't even relate to people who can summon the urge to do something like that. But this sure is a thing that people like to trot out there a lot whenever they're faced with allegations like this, isn't it? She does make a good point here that these contestants are real people, something I think the internet needed to be reminded of multiple times throughout this season of Love Island USA. But she also cryptically states that some people don't survive cyberbullying like this. Obviously, her experiences are valid, and I don't think we should be wishing death upon anyone. I also truly hope she's not considering taking any drastic actions. But when you bring both of those things up in response to a controversy of your own creation, it can really start to feel a little bit like deflection. That's even more true when you try and power through to get your 15 minutes of fame from being on the show anyway. What do I mean by that? Well, in the days following her critique of cancel culture, she would go on to make a number of posts alternating between pictures from her time on Love Island and selfies where she talks about how misunderstood she is. And to make matters worse, in recent days, she's seemed like she wants to turn this issue into a her versus the haters situation, posting a series of TikToks that feature her dancing with captions referencing her dismissal from the show. This one here is captioned, "Broke the record for least kisses on Love Island and still came out a main character." Which is gross enough on its own, but I suppose it is easy enough to confuse notoriety for fame. In a comment under this video, someone questions this assertion, to which Yulissa replies, "I was OG cast, my love, so yeah, one of the main characters. Stay mad while I'm unbothered by people like you." Yikes. Her next video was captioned, "They thought I'd be crying. I was too busy being held by people who actually love me." I don't know about you guys, but I don't think there's anything that says unbothered like a second consecutive post about how unbothered you are. But to make matters even worse, she's in the comments of this post liking ones that say things like, Yulissa deserved better, and girl, you dodged a bullet being on that season. Look, I agree with Yulissa that people on the internet tend to take things too far, but my sympathy for you evaporates whenever you use that to justify ignoring valid criticism and treating everyone who disagrees with you as simply just a hater to be dismissed. As for Sierra, honestly, I think she handled this with a bit more grace, and I want to give her credit for that. While I was writing this script, she posted a 5-minute long apology video to her Instagram. Now I know it doesn't count for much, but compare that 5-minute long video to Yulissa's official statement, which barely reaches about 4 paragraphs. On top of that, in her video, Sierra does 3 things that I think are very important to a true apology. Number 1, she actually apologizes.
I want to first start by addressing not just anyone that I have hurt or deeply offended, but most importantly, the entire Asian community. I am deeply, truly, honestly, so sorry.
She addresses the affected community and apologizes directly for any hurt she has caused. And though she does state that she was ignorant of the weight that that word carried, she doesn't use that as an excuse and states clearly that her intent is irrelevant in this matter. And for what it's worth, when she says she didn't fully understand what that word meant, I believe her. When my wife heard about the controversy surrounding Sierra, she had never heard that word to begin with. So I can believe there are people out there who don't fully grasp the meaning of that word. If anything, this is a lesson in not saying words that you don't understand the meaning of. But what I really want to hone in on here is that she doesn't hide behind her ignorance, which I think is a textbook defense when people find themselves in situations like this, as if the not knowing takes away any pain that they may have inflicted. The second thing I think she does really well is she accepts the consequences of her actions.
I completely agree with the network's decision to remove me from the villa. I think that this is something that deserved punishment.
Sierra states clearly that she not only accepts the network's decision to pull her from the show, but that she agrees with it, which I thought was really big of her, honestly. So often these days, I feel like we see people ride out super hard for what they call freedom of speech, when really what they want is the freedom of consequences. So for Sierra to actively shut that down and not feed into the bitterness that leads people down a dark path sometimes is a good sign. But the third, and I think most important element of this apology is that she brings receipts to show that she has learned her lesson and that she is working to be better. I feel like every time something like this happens, the first response that a lot of people give is, so what? People can't change? People can't grow? The answer to that is obviously yes, but when all we have is their word to go on that they have changed, it's kind of hard to believe that they're not just saying that just to get out of the jam that they're in. Sierra brings up receipts from the last time she used that word, where a follower swipes up on her story and corrects and educates her. Instead of lashing out, Sierra responded with genuine embarrassment and promised to do better going forward. I think this exchange went about as well as it could have, given that Sierra, to me at least, seems genuinely ignorant of the harm that that word carries, and seems very willing to accept education from this follower, who in turn responds and seems appreciative of the comment that Sierra sent to her. I think that this conversation here, which happened in private DMs that I don't think anyone was ever really meant to see, is positive signs that she has grown and changed and that she has at least been receptive to education in that front. So am I telling you to just full on accept Sierra's apology and go back to feeling however you felt about her before you found out about all this mess? No, of course not. Sierra says so herself in the end of her video.
I know that moving forward, my actions and how I decide to live my life from here on out is gonna speak louder than any apology ever could.
Stating that she knows how she moves in the next part of her life is going to be way more indicative of a changed heart than any apology video could ever be. All I'm saying is, I think this response was best case scenario here, and way more refreshing in my opinion than watching someone write off all of their critics as haters like Yulissa has, or just continue going about their business after taking a short break like Cody Ko and other YouTubers have. To wrap up this video, I just want to reiterate, you should not be harassing people online, and that threatening someone or their family is never acceptable. Both women mentioned in their statements that their families have felt unsafe in this time, and that super sucks. So let's all just chill out for 1 second. Sierra even mentions that people have called ICE on her family, which is absurd to me, by the way. I mean, what are we thinking, guys? We're putting innocent people in a whole lot of danger by doing stuff like that, so cut it out. Don't talk to them. Ever. Look, I think if there's anything to take away from this, I think it's that we gotta do better, guys. We need to lock in. Especially us Latinos, we need to be supportive of the other minority groups around us. We all need to work together. We got 2 Latina baddies committing friendly fire on other minority groups, and that is so antithetical to what we should be working towards right now. We all need to stick together, especially with what's going on around the country right now. So I'll just ask you to consider this. If you have any negative feelings in your heart towards any minority group, I want you to really wrestle with why that is. And I want you to do everything you can to rid yourself of that. Don't get defensive. Don't try to justify your feelings. Just be real with yourself and do your best to be better. Like always, I'll be here to talk if you need someone to talk to. You can always find a trusted friend, a family member, or a healthcare professional to speak to as well. Stay safe out there, guys, and remember, let's keep it classy. My name has been Aaron Trevino, and I'll see you guys next time.